everyone, this is Jim Graham with rcgroups.com, and I'm sitting here with another Jim Bourke, owner of rcgroups.com. And we're here to talk to Jim about a recent purchase he made, and not a lot of people would ever get to make a purchase like this because there aren't too many of these things around. Jim, can you tell us what you recently bought?
Well, I bought a Yak 54, a full-scale Yak 54 unlimited aerobatic airplane, and I bought it in December of last year. Been flying it now about 45 hours so far.
Now, the thing that you and I might know is there's a lot of Yak 54 ARFs and kits and airplanes out there, and so I've never really thought of the reality of a Yak 54. Did you just tell us how many there were?
Well, I think that it's a little hard to even find out how many, but the Russian government ordered a bunch of them, and Yakolev, as far as I know, made about 12. Several have been lost in accidents, unfortunately. There's only one in the United States, and as far as I know, it's the only one that's being actively flown at all. There are a few in France right now that are for sale. An aerobatic team used those, and they've since switched to jets. So they're trying to sell those aircraft off. And there's also a set of aircraft, a small number in Russia itself. There's an outstanding order from the Russian government, as I understand it, for another 50 of these aircraft. But Yakolev hasn't been in a position to manufacture them. It's not clear that they ever will. So as it stands right now, I think I have the only one that's really flying.
So what's the physical size of this airplane? Is this compared to, let's say, something, is it gigantic?
It's, I like how we make no mention at all of the fact that we're moving during this entire interview, by the way. I think that's really cool. Yeah, no mention, including what I just said. It's, well, the first thing you notice is how big it is. If I put it next to an Extra 300, the Extra 300 is really dwarfed in size. An Extra is a fine airplane. It gets a lot of its performance off of its small size, its lightweight. The Yak 54 is a heavy plane. It's all metal, entirely aluminum. And the wingtips come up to my chest. The spinner comes up to my nose, and I'm 6'2". I'm not a small person. So it is a very large airplane. It has 360 horsepower, so it has the power it takes to pull it through the air. But it's not dainty. It's a tank. And that's one of the things I love about it. It's big. It's noisy. It puts out a lot of smoke. It has a great sound when you start it up. Kind of a deep throbbing sound. It kind of vibrates a lot when you're flying it, but it's really cool. It's one of the neatest things I've ever seen. I love it. It's like kind of like having a Harley, instead of what they call a crash cycle. If you're into motorcycles, it's more like the Harley style, a cruiser kind of an airplane, but also very capable.
And when you're sitting in this thing, what can you see going down the runway?
Well, the runway you can't really see very much because it's a very tall airplane in the front, and the back is very obviously touching the ground. The tail wheel is very short. So, unfortunately, when you're in the plane and taxiing around, you can't see very much. The wings kind of block your view, and you can kind of see out the corners. But the thing is, if you're lined up on the runway, you can't see it. So that's kind of how you do it. You just kind of keep the runway from view. And if you can see the runway, you kind of go to cover it up with the airplane. And that's how you keep it straight going down the runway. But once you're off the ground, the visibility is just fine. It's a nice flying airplane, and the canopy is a bubble canopy, so you can see all around. Has a great view when you're in the airplane.
Well, let's bring this back to RC for a second. I know that you have an aeronautical background, but how has RC, this is an aerobatic plane, so how has RC has it given you better tools to fly the plane?
Oh, definitely. There's a transition for anyone who's flying in competition aerobatics. A big transition you have to go through. Flying RC at the level I have has helped me tremendously in my spatial awareness. I'm aware of what needs to happen next, what inputs are necessary. When you can coordinate an RC model, in some ways that's harder than it is to do full scale. In some ways. So if you can coordinate an RC model, that transitions very well. But there's a couple of things that are really hard. One of them is the physiological factors, which you don't have in RC. Sickness, disorientation, vertigo, the things that come about, which are really major things. It's no joke. So that's a big factor. And the other factor is just using your feet instead of using your left thumb for the rudder. That's probably the harder thing. Coordinating slow rolls and snap rolls and maneuvers by pushing on your feet and holding onto the rudder pedals when you're upside down. None of those things come into play with RC. So those are the two things I've kind of highlighted. But in general, I think going from RC to full-scale aerobatics is a pretty easy transition. I think it's a real advantage, and I encourage people that fly RC to try it out.
So if they wanted to learn a little bit about the airplane, well, let's not go there yet. That's kind of the end of the interview. Is there, like, if somebody said, I heard you just bought this airplane, what would be a few things that you would really want to say to somebody about it, or what's excited you about it?
Well, I'll just go ahead and just say the most common thing people ask me, I might as well just say this, is something like, are you sure you're ready for a plane like that? I get asked that a lot. And I always just say, no, I'm not ready. But no one's really ready until you do it. You have to have training and you have to practice. But given training and practice, you become ready and become able to do it. At this point, I put the plane in every orientation you can put it in, and it's handled really well. So I feel very safe in the airplane. But a mistake is very costly, so it's a matter of being high enough that if you make a mistake, you can still recover from it. That's the primary thing, I think, is just to let everyone know that I think it's a very safe activity, and I mitigate as many of the dangers as possible by wearing a parachute, by practicing very high, by taking it very seriously, those sorts of things. The next thing is just people want to ask about the airplane itself, what kind of engine it has. It has a 9-cylinder M14, 360 horsepower engine. I'm not sure that means anything to anyone, but it's a very rugged, reliable engine. It produces a lot of torque, spins a very large 3-bladed propeller. The plane can, people ask if it can hover. Not quite so far. I haven't felt comfortable really trying that out very much, but from what I've seen, it'll do a good solid torque roll and then kind of come down in a tail slide. I think with a 400 horsepower engine, I might have a chance of hovering it. So I think people mostly are interested in the performance of it, the history of it, and whether or not I'm going to be able to do this without killing myself is probably the other thing.
We all know the act from our RC planes, and you have the full-scale plane, so the next question is, will we ever see Russian Thunder? Could you give us a little history on Russian Thunder?
Well, Russian Thunder is an air show plane. It was run the U.S. with another...
Hey,
great.
1 second. Hey, let's turn around and go the other way, man. In fact, if you want to go through the RVs...
Jim Bourke's back. Yes, he does.
Frank Knoll says Jim Bourke's that one.
I love you, Frank.
Let's go that way.
Hit that part out.
It's too bad we couldn't do a single shot.
Oh, it's good. You can edit it. It doesn't matter.
You're smooth.
So why don't you ask your question again?
So everyone, like me, I'm familiar with the Yak 54 because I've seen it flying at RC fields across. Oh, no, that's not my question. My question is, what's the history on the airplane, the Russian Thunder?
Okay. Well, when they made the Yak 54, they designed it to be a trainer for the jet pilots in Russia, but they also designed it, because they were clever, they designed it to be an unlimited aerobatic plane. And there's a lot of interest in those planes, Sukhois in particular. The Yak 54 is a lot less expensive than the Sukhoi Su-29. So U.S. distributors lined up to take a shot at selling the airplane. Unfortunately, it didn't do all that well in sales. The extras kind of started dominating the aerobatic competitions, and now the Edges and all those sorts of aircraft, because they have a little bit more vertical and a lot lighter weight. So the F-54 didn't get sold very well, and of the two that were in the U.S., one of them went back to Europe. Another one, actually, a third one was lost in Alaska. A general had an unfortunate accident in Alaska, a spin accident. So the last one that was in the U.S. was at the time called Dancing Bear, and it was sold to a man named Eric Beard, who flew in air shows mostly around the Northwest, but really all over the place, and was a really good air show pilot, really showed the airplane off. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago now. So I actually would be interested in selling the plane, and we worked out a deal, and that's how I got it. Now, the plane itself was used in the real flight simulator, which is how I was aware of it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was on the cover of the box, and was that was our example of a 3D aircraft when we first released Real Flight G3. So that's how I got to know Eric and the airplane.
So the people out there can fly Russian Thunder through Real Flight.
Yeah, and Real Flight G3 and G4, Russian Thunder's in there.
Mm-hmm. And my next question is, we know the airplane because we're RC pilots, and you see Yak 54s. Will Russian Thunder at some point be a ARF that anyone out there could fly?
Well, I'd like to work that out. I've talked to a number of people that are interested, and it's just a matter of getting everything together. I have a number of logos I want to put on the aircraft, and I still haven't decided which companies are going to be represented on the airplane. So I kind of want to hold off on doing the ARP until I get that figured out, because it's an important part of doing the ARP. But I would be shocked if there wasn't a giant scale ARP of some kind available soon. We're working on that.
Great. And to end the interview, I heard that you went to see the airplane before you came out here to Joe Nall. How does that work?
Well, you get to where you miss it when you're gone. I just love it so much, and I just have to see it every once in a while. So even when I can't fly it, even when it's in the shop, I kind of go down and take a look at it every once in a while. And I sometimes, even if I can't fly it, I spend some time in the cockpit or work on it a little bit. And it's just nice to be around.
And if everyone out here wanted to, there'll be pictures in the article, but is there a website they can go to learn a little bit more about Russian Thunder?
Well, right now I'm doing a lot of that on my blog at RC Groups. So go to RC Groups and look at the blogs area and find my blog, and that's where I'm keeping all the information right now. But ultimately, RussianThunder.com is going to be the source for information on the airplane.
All right, everyone, this is Jim Graham and Jim Bourke, and we've been talking about Russian Thunder. I sure appreciate your time. Let's do the obligatory shake and grin.